And we're
live. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. It's hilarious, right? So, Kim-Adele from the car, yeah?
I'm any point lastminute.com.
What's that?
Are you suggesting that I'm at any point lastminute.com?
Well, I was last minute. I couldn't actually get my video camera to work. And I was just like, oh no, I've got 3 minutes. Like my camera's not working because I've got like all sorts of settings and stuff, right? And it's just a bit of a nightmare. But I think before we sort of kick off and talk about what we want to talk about, right? I just wanted to say thanks to everyone who's been so kind to reach out to us and kind of encourage us on our new journey with Master Mindset and obviously with the Elite Coaches Club. And that was like just so amazing. I'm really pleased that we set an autoresponder though, to be fair, because it's just like, I mean, I don't know how many 100 messages I've got. But like I got a lot of appointments, a lot of meetings in the diary now, and I know you did as well. And you know, I'm just really grateful that everyone took the time to kind of congratulate us on our new venture. You know,
I know it's been so lovely. People have been so amazing. Hey,
hello,
and we're so grateful because everyone's so busy, aren't they? So when people take the time out, it is really, really appreciated. And obviously, once we get through the launch next week, then we'll be able to get back in touch. But thrilled to be having coffees booked in with people to have a good catch up about what's going on in their life too, because we can get too hung up, can't we, in the busyness of our own lives that we don't take the time to find out what's going on in other people's.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. So I thought today, in keeping with Mental Health Awareness Week, that I would, you know, I think we talk about 3 things, right? So self-care, I think is important. We talk about that. Why you need a coach. And also, obviously, International Coaching Week, which is next week. And that's run by the International Coaching Federation. So I wanted to talk a bit about that as well. So Mental Health Awareness Week, you know, be kind to yourself is so important. And, you know, it really helps to kind of de-stress, doesn't it? If you take that time to exercise, drink plenty of water, you know, eat good food and this kind of stuff. I think it's really important, says me having a glass of water, you know?
No, I think it is. I think it's self-care. It's also caring for others because, you know, we never know what's going on in somebody else's world. But if you just ask how somebody is, it can really make the difference. You know, to reach out to somebody you've not seen in a while and just go, hey, just wanted to check in and see how things were, or you were on my mind, actually can be the real difference for somebody who's feeling lonely. And it's creating that safe space for people to be able to say, do you know what? Today's not a great day for me. Today I'm not feeling it. Today I could just do with somebody to hold some space for me, and not necessarily to talk about how I'm feeling, but to just spend some time with me so that actually I can distract myself from something else. And I think it can be one of the hardest things to do, is to ask people for help, is to say, do you know what, I could just do with a chat right now. But whenever you do, people are so thrilled to give you that space, to give you that time, just like you're so thrilled to give it to somebody who asks you for it. But imagine how much more impact you could have if you just outright offered it. Just went up and said, you know what? And about you, I could really do with a coffee, albeit outside in the cold and the wet, until Monday. And you can actually have a coffee in the warm. And how exciting is that going to be?
Yeah. It's I had a little taste of summer. Like it was 23 degrees a couple of days back, and I was like in my shorts, and I was walking down to the beach, and I was like, oh, this is nice. And then literally now rain is forecast for like 8 days. I'm like just looking out.
But you know, the thing to remember is, without rain, there is no rainbow.
Very much so, and we've got plenty of work to do, and I can still go for a walk when there's a gap in the clouds, and I think that's really important. It's like listening to your body, right? Like, you know, when you exercise really hard, you need to eat good food. But if you're in pain and genuinely you feel like, well, actually, I can maybe do with a little bit of an easy day today, then there's nothing wrong with being kind to yourself and kind of
Yeah.
taking it easy, right? And I think that's what a good coach will help you to sort of understand, how you can be kind to yourself, or kinder, right?
I
And
think it's
there,
that old adage, isn't it? You know, everything in moderation, including moderation. And I think we've got to just be a bit kinder to ourselves. We berate ourselves for all the things we haven't done yet, rather than just go, do you know what? Sometimes we just want an off day. Sometimes you just want to reach for the bag of buttons, and that's all right. Just don't do it every day. So
yeah,
it's,
yeah.
you know, it's looking at those bits and saying, if you're going to do it, but enjoy it. I don't make yourself wrong for having hit the chocolate buttons, or hit the glass of wine, or hit the packet of crisps, or whatever you needed. Thoroughly enjoy it in the moment, and then just make your next choice a different one. But actually, if you make yourself wrong, then sometimes the only way to make yourself feel better is to continue to do the thing that you've made wrong, because that becomes your comfort. So you're not enjoying it anyway. And actually, that seems such a shame.
Yeah, very much so. What are we? We're nearly on. This is our third week of not drinking any booze at all, right? Just coincidentally, you decided. I gave. I was like, I need to stop drinking for a while, and like I think on the Saturday, I said, oh, I haven't drunk, didn't drink any booze, and I think you're one day ahead, one day behind me, right?
Yeah,
So
mine's Sunday.
yeah, so I'm going to sort of carry on with that, and see how much more productivity that I can kind of generate. And like this week has been it's been a really interesting week from a self-development point of view. It's been challenging from a work output point of view, but it's been good, you know. And I think it's actually looking back and saying to yourself at the end of the day, well, actually, what did I achieve today? And not looking at the journey ahead and saying, oh, I've got so much to do. Yeah, it's about looking ahead and saying, okay, well, I need to get there. That's fine. So what have I actually achieved today? Okay, well, you know, and we did a monstrous load of work this week, right? And you know, we've put 5 events out on the International Coaching Federation's website. And you know, that leads into my second thing I wanted to talk about, which is like, what, you know, like, why do you need a coach, right? And I've been giving a lot of thought to that, and I mean, it's like, well, everyone that I know that lives life on a different level, right? Like, they have a coach, right? Even you have a coach, right? And you're a
Yeah.
coach yourself, yeah. And you know, like, top athletes have a coach, top business people have a coach, people who are stuck in life have a coach, and there are coaches for like pretty much every single thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess, you know, I remember somebody saying to me years ago, you know, oh, you're a coach, that means you think you're better. And I was like, no, it doesn't. If the coach were better than you, it'd be their name they know. And like you say, every top athlete, top actor, top business person, top politician, anybody who's at the top of their game has got at least one, probably a few coaches, because they recognize that they specialize in different areas. And the point is not that that coach is better than them, but the coach can shine a light on our blind spots. And we all have blind spots. We're blind to them. That's why they're called blind spots.
Yeah.
So actually, the reason you have a coach is so that they can shine a light into the unilluminated areas of your life to enable you to grow into them, so that they are not blind to them anymore. So, you know, I always liken myself to the fact that, you know, all I really do is stand behind you and let you know that, you know, when you run ever so slightly to the left. And if you didn't, if you just straightened up, you could take 3 seconds off your personal best. Is that what you'd like? Well, of course, people want to be the best that they can be. And so it's not that I know how to run better than you. It's the fact that I can stand behind you and I can see your dark spots because I'm viewing it from a different point. It's why I've got a coach. I can't see my own blind spots because I'm just like everybody else. I am blind to my blind spots. And I can't say to people, it's really important you get a coach because they're going to help you see the things you can't see, if I'm not willing to say, what is it I can't see? What is it that I need to have somebody help me shine a light on so that I can grow too? Because that's what we're here to do. We're all here to grow. No, absolutely. If you've got, it doesn't matter if it's a friend who's a coach. It doesn't matter if it's, you don't have to pay somebody. It's about finding the people in your tribe that are going to be there to help you. I get coached all of the time from lots of people. So yes, I have an actual coach. In fact, I've got a couple, but I've also got a huge community of friends that are coaches, and a huge community of friends who aren't coaches, but they still coach me. They still teach me things because they've done something that I haven't done, and they've got a unique viewpoint on what I'm going through. And it comes from a position of love. So I know that they love me and they want to do the best by they want me to do the best. So I always liken it to having your critical best friend, the person that lets you know your bum looks big in that before you've strutted around town thinking you look ace, because they just want you to be the best that you can be. And I'm blessed to have some amazing best friends who I know when they are telling me anything that's developmental, or when they are letting me know that my bum looks big, they're doing it out of love. They're doing it because they care. And they've got my best interests. And likewise, when I do the same for them, it's because I care. And I think that's all it is. So your coach doesn't have to be somebody you pay for. Some people also get this from listening to YouTubes, to podcasts, to reading books. It's around saying, actually, where can you gather more knowledge? Where can you gain more insight? And then how can you debate on that so that you can actually say, well, this is what I learned, this is what I thought about it. What does somebody else think? So for me, I'm an advocate of just making sure that you've got the right people in your support network to help you to be the best that you can be. And sometimes you need that person who's just going to sit and have a coffee with you and commiserate. Sometimes you want the person that's going to kick you up the backside and say, come on now, get on with it, Pats. You can't wallow in that pity anymore. And sometimes I want somebody who's just going to say, look, this is where you get in your own way. And you need a combination of those, or at least I do. I need a combination dependent on what I'm needing on that day or in that moment or for that particular thing that I'm facing. But actually surrounding yourself with the right tribe really helps.
Yeah, it's massive, right? Like they say that you're the sum of the I think it's the 5 to 10 people that you spend the most time with, right? And
Yeah.
like that can be online, it could be face to face, combination of both, right? But it's like it makes such a difference when you know, if you hang out with people, they influence you, right? Like I mean, I was reading something the other day, like 95% of your purchasing decisions are made subconsciously, right? So if you're 95% of your decisions to buy something are made subconsciously, just think about what people are doing to your brain subconsciously.
Yeah.
And like, you know, that's why you got to guard your gate, right? Your doorway to your mind. Yeah. You know, in many ways.
Yeah, but it's also recognizing that, you know, we believe, we convince ourselves that we're logical beings, that we make our decisions based on our thinking brain. And yet the reality is our emotions respond 24 times faster. So at the point that we think we want to do something, or we think, oh, don't show them that we're upset or angry or hurt or whatever, actually it's already out there. Our emotions are already there for everybody to see, but we're just not looking for them. And the reality is we make our choices based on our emotions, and then we justify them based on logic. And then we convince ourselves that we did everything logical in the first place. But we have to recognize that we are all emotional beings. And we all have those emotions. We all feel them. And at the moment we tell ourselves not to express them, it's already too late.
Sorry, I had to cough there, so I muted my microphone.
I know, I thought I'd pause for effect for you.
That's all right. We've been reading this. We've been listening to this book, haven't we, with this FBI negotiator, and it's like really good.
Oh, it's epic. It's such an amazing book. So I finished it this week, as you know, and then sent it to you going, you've just got to read this, because it just such great insight into the subtle changing of words to actually make people really be understood. So you're seeking constantly to understand, and the more we understand the other person, the more able we are to effectively communicate with them. And it's brilliant. I mean, it's part of my in fact, we were joking about this, weren't we, on Monday, part of my productivity hacks, being a single mum, business owner and avid reader, is actually audible books are amazing, because what I now do is, I take Scarlett, I walk her to nursery, and the minute I drop her off, I plug in an audible book and I walk back, and I do some learning, or I have it on in the kitchen while I'm cooking, so that actually I'm trying to optimize my time so that I'm constantly learning, because I love to learn. It's like I've
Yeah,
got this
yeah,
real thirst for gaining more information and gaining other people's viewpoints, because the more viewpoints I get, the better able I am to decide on my perspective.
yeah. Very much so. And that book is particularly interesting. I mean, I'm glad that I'm following your productivity, your expert productivity advice, should I actually say, to be fair. Um, and I've started listening to audiobooks while I'm walking. I've been listening to Michael Tobin's book, like
Yeah,
Live, Love, Work, Prosper, and that's just phenomenal. But like, we share so many similarities with Michael Tobin. When you listen to that, you'll get a lot out of that one. But
yeah,
but this particular book's interesting because the author, he actually spent 24 years in the FBI, which I thought was super interesting. And he went to Harvard, didn't he? And he did a negotiation course at Harvard after they sat him down in a meeting with this Harvard professor. And this Harvard professor, someone else came in the room and then sat down with a tape recorder. And then they basically tried to negotiate with a negotiator. And they told him that his son had been kidnapped. And then he basically asked them all these questions. And he just, and this Harvard professor was like, okay, maybe the FBI can kind of teach us something here. And it was just like, it just basically made a mockery of everything that the Harvard people have been doing. It just cracked me up, actually, to be fair. And yeah, and I think that he went to this course and he did the workshop, and I'm kind of on chapter 2, I think, on that, or chapter 3, and I'm getting a lot of value out of it. But what I'm doing now is I'm actually pausing it and then going back to the point that I actually really enjoyed, and then listening to it again, just so it really kind of sinks into my brain, right? Because
yeah, yeah.
we all learn in different ways, don't we? And that's what's really quite interesting.
Yeah,
You
and
know?
actually I do the same. So I'll listen to it, and what I'll do is I'll take a photo of my screenshot at the points where something thinks I really want to write that down, because that was really insightful. And then later on, when I'm back home and I've got a pen and paper, then I'll go back to the part of it that I've screenshotted and go, right, it was 32 minutes in, and I'll rewind to there, and then I'll be able to write the piece down. And you can write notes in your Audible book and that as well, so you can bookmark it to go back later, which then allows you to say, I've got books that I've been reading for years, and I know the parts of it. And the bit that I love when I've got an actual book is, to put those little post-it notes in that point to the part where it's like, this was the bit that really resonated for me, this was the bit that was really insightful. You can do exactly the same on Audible. It's just finding different ways of getting the technology to work for you, so that you can actually build it into your day. Because, and I appreciate taking the feedback, I might be marginally too productive for a lot of people, and I tend to work at quite a pace. Yeah, Kelly, you're right, it was the Harvard negotiation project. And what was fascinating when you kind of listened to the whole book was that actually they each learned from each other. So Chris Voss, who's the author, he was able to teach them some of the things that they'd learned from in the field, where they didn't necessarily know the theory around why it worked, but they knew in the reality that actually they'd got enough evidence that you do it this way and it really, really works. But then you layered into that with what the Harvard professors had got in their negotiation piece, which was the theory around the psychology of why some of these things worked. And the combination of the two is where you really leveled up. And I think, that for me was one of the great takeaways from the book, which is you can always develop your skill. You've just got to be open-minded to learning other ways of doing it. And like with all things, the more tools you've got in your toolkit, the better able you are going to navigate a situation, because you just don't know when something else is going to crop up. And he talks later on in the book about the black swans, and the black swans were, for many years, people didn't think they existed. So the black swan was the unknown unknown, which is why his business is called the Black Swan. And actually, it wasn't until I think it was I've actually I'm going to forget when it was that they suddenly found an actual black swan in Australia, and then realised that actually it wasn't an unknown. They do exist. So there is a black swan, and that's what he talks about, is finding the black swan, finding the unknown unknown, the thing that you just didn't expect was going to happen, and being ready for that. And you can't always be ready for it. Kelly, I bet it was a fascinating program. I'd love to hear
Yeah.
more about it, because it's got to be so insightful. Just hearing the third person view in Chris's book, it just gave you a really different perspective into the human psyche, why we do some of the things we do. And actually, in my opinion, I think at our basis, human beings want to be listened to, they want to be understood, and they want to be respected. And as long as we seek to do that for people, we stand a good chance. And that doesn't mean to say we always have to agree. It's absolutely fine to disagree, but just not to disrespect. And I think if we go into things with that, seeking to understand that person's viewpoint, then we can only ever grow as people, because we're learning new things. Doesn't mean to say we have to agree with them, but we're at least learning.
Yeah, I agree completely. I spent a bit of time working with my dad, and when I was working with him for the last year, he taught me about negotiation, and it was interesting because he was from the MIT schooling, and actually we were negotiating with a distributor importer, an importer of booze into America. But he was educated at Harvard. So my dad gave me an education into negotiating with someone that had been through the Harvard kind of system. Very, very interesting. But I think there is always something to learn, always something to learn. And that's where we get into our next topic, because I know you're a little bit pushed for time today, as I am. And the next topic is obviously the coaching week. And I'm not going to call my coach a tool, because that would be impolite. I say a resource.
I'll take the feedback.
So, as far as International Coaching Week is concerned, that starts next week. We're actually doing 5 events. On the Monday, we have Paralympic athlete joining us, James Owen Roberts, isn't it? I think.
Yep, it is.
And he's competed, I think, in 2 or 3 Paralympic Games.
Yep.
And now he's actually a peak performance coach. So that's very interesting. And then we're interviewing a lot of different people on the Tuesday around exercise, how that can kind of get you through challenging times. And then on Wednesday, we're doing we're having a conversation around let me see.
It's effective communication on the Wednesday.
Yeah.
With Stephen Gillen and Brian Kramer.
Yes, exactly. So that's very interesting, because both of those 2 guys are really super cool. Stephen Gillen, from spending a lot of time in jail, he came out, reinvented himself, became the CEO of a number of different businesses, and actually he's actually won an international peace prize, and he's got a book coming out about his. He had a book come out about his life, and he's actually got a film coming out around that as well, which is amazing. So I think, it'll be really interesting. He's been interviewing loads of like Italian mafia guys from New York and stuff like that, right? So so that should be super cool. I really like Stephen. He's so funny. He makes me laugh. And and Brian's super. He's been a TED speaker. He's been interviewed over 200 times. Runs all sorts of different business ventures and stuff. And then it's back to you and me on the Thursday and the Friday, Kim, talking about and coaching, the business of coaching, and sharing what we've kind of learned, right, from all these interviews. Yeah,
absolutely. And actually, on the Thursday, we're being joined by the lovely Cindy, so she can make it. So she's coming along as well to help us talk about the business of coaching and how we're able to use that to take down the mask and step into our authentic self. So it should be a really good really good session.
Super. And Cindy's ex, very top level marketer at Boots, I believe.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
Boots Chemist. Yeah, they're owned by Walgreens now, and I think she was involved with like rolling out a whole load of stores internationally. So that's going to be
So
very, very
she was
interesting.
their global marketing and brand person. She's got amazing experience, amazing stories, and she's just won a Life's Live list. So I think people will enjoy it.
Yeah, very much so. So I'm expecting we may have another guest for the sports, for the athletes kind of thing. I'm just waiting for a response. We will see. I'm hoping so.
At the moment we've got Jamie Edwards, Warren Stone, and Peggy Wright, haven't we?
We do, yes, we do. So I'm hoping that to have one more. But for anyone that kind of wants to know more about what we're doing during that week, I will drop a link in the chat here. I just need to. I'm going to actually go and find a link first. That would probably be the most organised thing to do, wouldn't it, Kim?
It would. Anyone would think you've been learning productivity.
I've been learning just in time for a long time.
Well, it is one of the two methods.
Yeah. It's been really, really, really good to learn this week. We went through so many different things, different learning processes this week. It's just been, whilst I thought it was hard, my brain now actually thanks me for the pain that it kind of went through, and I think next week will be better because I'm kind of learning how to manage all of these tasks, and that's the thing, isn't it? It's managing to keep up with the workload, right, without being overwhelmed by the kind of big picture that you're working towards, right?
Yeah, I guess it's looking at it's taking the biggest problem and then acting on the simplest solution. And that's what we've got to get, that's what we've been really working on. And, I take the feedbacks pretty much every week. You let people know that it's an absolute nightmare working with me.
No, that's your inner imposter. You've got to kick that one away. You got over that. You got over that 3 weeks ago.
I know, I'm just joking. Every week, like, it's been really hard. People have been really
No, I've stopped saying that. No.
I know.
I've stopped saying that. No, I've stopped saying it's really hard. It's not really hard. It's challenging. Yeah. It's challenging to the right point of growth without like dying. Yeah.
Yeah. And, challenge is just opportunity in a different dress, a little bit like a squirrel is a rat in a better fur coat.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, I want to just say thanks again to everyone who has been so kind with all these lovely messages on LinkedIn and all these meetings now that are in our diaries. And if you are connected with me on LinkedIn, please feel free to drop me a message. You will get a calendar invite. You'll get a calendar link straight away. And if you want to book in for half an hour for a coffee and have a chat, then that's fine. Same with Kim.
Yeah, lovely. We would love to.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, is there anything else? I think we've covered everything.
Yeah, no, I think we have. I'd like to again, thanks to everybody who's been so kind and given us feedback, both things that they'd like us to do differently and things they'd like us to continue doing, because that's how we grow, it's how we learn. And it takes a lot for people to have the courage to give feedback. So we do really, really appreciate it. And I'd also like to thank everybody for bearing with me for the fact that obviously I'm doing this live today from the car, because I did think that you would probably never forgive me if I didn't make it again because I'd been to the hairdressers.
Do you know what? You might laugh, right? You might laugh. But I was like, 10 minutes before, I was like, okay, I'm doing it. I'm going to do it on my own, right? And I swear to you, I would have done it, no problem. I was at a point where, all right, she's doing this to me again. Okay. And I would have quite happily streamed to all your channels without a problem, Kim. And I would have referenced your hairdresser's appointment, most definitely. However, it would have been fine.
Yeah, and I would like to, not to put a damper on things, but I would like to just leave with something that happened today. So I was at the hairdressers, and one of the other clients has unfortunately lost a 12-year battle with cancer and had their funeral today. And it was, the procession actually went past the salon, so we all came out. So actually, if anyone were near my hairdresser, they'd have seen me with the hair dye on, looking particularly horrendous. But we came out to watch it pass, and the whole village came to a standstill as she went by in horse and carriage with, there must have been about 50 people, maybe more, walking behind and lining the streets, sending up balloons, because this woman had such an inspiring impact on the people around her. And it just made me realize that actually we just never know how long we've got, but that doesn't mean to say that we can't take the time out to appreciate people. And it just reminded me life's short, in a good way, in a, such a celebration of the impact that this lady had on the world, that it's made me want to actually reach out to more people and let them know how much of an impact they have on my life while I'm still able to tell them.
Yeah, very much so. And if anyone wants to come and have a look at my sick videos on Facebook of my daily walks, you're welcome. Add me as a friend. I'll be glad to connect. Thanks for tuning in.
Take care.
Bye, everyone.